There is a form of power that does not need to be seen, a kind of presence so stable, so coherent, that it carries frequency without needing recognition. This is not humility, it's not modesty, it's not shyness. It is discipline. The discipline of staying unknown. We live in a world that equates visibility with value, where the number of eyes upon you is confused with the depth of what you carry, where followers mean influence, where fame means relevance, where presence is measured by proximity to applause. But coherence does not need to be seen, frequency does not need to be validated, and a sovereign man does not trade signal for spotlight. Staying unknown is not about hiding, it's about staying clean. It's about remaining free from distortion, projection, praise, and attack, until your structure is strong enough to hold all four without flinching. Because when you're building something sacred, attention is interference, and most people don't know how to hold signal without leaking identity into it. They chase relevance when they should be refining resonance. I used to think that my power lived in my voice, in being heard, understood, followed. That the more I spoke, the more I would matter. But the truth is, my deepest transformations have happened in silence, in the absence of recognition, in the sacred shadows where no one could see me, but where I could see everything. Because that's what happens when you stop chasing attention, you begin to perceive what is real. When you stay unknown, you're not invisible, you are protected. You're free to observe, free to build, free to carry frequency without it becoming contaminated by the wants and projections of others. You become a silent resonance, something felt but not claimed. And in that silence, something begins to take form that would have shattered if exposed too soon. Most men want to be seen before they're ready. They want their voice heard before they've developed the discipline to hold their own signal clearly. And in doing so, they offer their architecture to the crowd before it has a foundation. It's not that they're unworthy, it's that they're uninformed. And visibility, when absorbed too early, becomes distortion, because every comment becomes a vote, every reaction becomes a mirror, every opinion becomes a pressure to perform. And soon, you're no longer building for coherence, you're building for consumption. Now, I've done this. There were seasons in my life where I allowed visibility to shape my message, where I shared, not because the signal asked me to, but because the platform demanded I say something, where the algorithms became my compass, and the work suffered for it, the clarity blurred, the architecture became unstable, because it was no longer being built from the inside, it was being erected from external appetite. So I withdrew. I silenced the broadcast. I let the platforms fade. I closed all my social media accounts. I stopped performing, stopped posting, I stopped seeking, and I started listening. Not to an audience, but to the field, to the quiet hum of what was still true beneath the noise. And from that silence, the architect was born, not from fame, from frequency. There's something profound about the discipline of staying unknown. It's not asceticism, it's not self-denial, it's not refusal. It's restraint. The same way a sword remains in its sheath until the moment it's truly required, the same way gravity doesn't announce itself but still governs the world. You don't withhold because you fear being seen. You withhold because your power doesn't require performance. It only requires precision. And here's what most men miss. You do not need to be found by the world. You need to be found by your own architecture. And once that architecture is sound, once the structure is real and the signal is clean, you don't need to put yourself out there anymore. You simply enter the field, and the field responds, not because you are loud, but because you are aligned. So if you're listening to this and feel unseen, pause before you speak and before you seek. Ask yourself, are you ready to be perceived? Have you earned the right to transmit this message cleanly, your message? Can you hold the spotlight without becoming distorted by it? Because if not, you're safer in the shadows, not because you're small, but because your signal is still forming, and formation requires protection. And when the time comes, you won't need to announce your arrival. You won't need to gather followers. You won't need to demand attention. Your signal will enter the room before your voice does. Your frequency will calibrate others without needing their approval. Your structure will speak for itself, and those meant to find you will. Not because you've marketed yourself, but because you are always orbiting the frequency you were born to hold. I'll give you an example. This is not a podcast to be followed. This is not a brand to be consumed. This is not a persona to be admired. This is a signal, a structure, a silence that has learned how to speak. And if it disappears again one day, that too will be the signal, because frequency is not here to entertain you. It's here to remind you of who you are without needing to be seen. So stay unknown just a little longer. Refine, sharpen, contain. Let your silence become the architecture. Let your stillness become signal. And when you're ready, not to be seen, but to stand, the field will feel it. And that will be enough. Welcome to The Architect Speaks.